Okay, so yesterday, the most current homework is that given a bunch of common words from the dictionary and a PDF file that's been encrypted, to decrypt that file. That's the common homework. Everything, we'll see if we get to that point. Everything we need is on this page with the PDFs and Word documents, the chapter 13. We went over a bit of content from chapter 11 and a bit of content from chapter 13. Would people prefer me to go over the chapter 13 stuff though, the PDF stuff, since that's more relevant to your homework? All right. Okay. So I'll work on chapter 13. It shouldn't take too long to get through. And again, I am aware, I was told that people had issues installing PyPDF too.
We figured it out.
Right. You got it. The main thing is that if you don't have pip, you have to reinstall it on. You have to try reinstalling Python and clicking the Add to Path checkbox, right? And if you have a Python window still open, right? Once it installs, you got to make sure you close it and reopen it if it's currently open, right? Because it's got to register that's been on. If you're using a Mac, you just need to type in pip3. Yes.
Do you type in pip3 every time you want to import it?
No, just when you want to install it.
Because I did it in class and then it made me do it again today when I was in class.
Pip3 install py to PDF should work. And here and Appendix A has the instructions on how you install stuff in general. So if you go into your textbook, it's here under pip tool. You can if you don't have it in your path, it is still installed in your if pip isn't registered as a command, it still is installed with Python. So you can just navigate to this directory over here and run pip.exe in your command line, right? If you go to files, there will be an open command line here, and you can just run pip install that from there without ever having to update your commands. And here it is on OS X or Linux. You have to install it if you're on Linux, but if you're on Linux, you're probably doing fine. And then to install a third-party module like that, what we've been doing, it's sudo pip3 install module name. And the reason that we have this is that various people who are not like official Python language programmers, they develop modules and they want to share them. And so pip is the big tool to register your module and then to install it, right? Say, hey, I created this tool. If you want to install it, here's the name of the package, and you can install it, and it's automatically done. There's a number of ones that this uses. Yesterday we went over requests and Py to PDF. So there's a number of those. Now when it comes to PDFs and Word files, they're binary files. So this chapter concerns itself with not just PDFs, but Word files. Word files, as you know, they're basically ubiquitous because Microsoft Office is basically the dominant word processing program. Although, I kind of take it as a point of professional pride that I typically have to go years between when I use it. Typically, if we want to read or write PDF or Word programs and do batch processing with Python, we typically want something a bit more powerful, and that's where Py to PDF comes in. Right now, this is magic, but it's not like unlimited magic that you get out of these things, right? Right. So right? So here's like the Mueller report from today, and you notice that basically that I cannot select anything from it. So, and that's going to be the case in anything where I do that for certain documents. Some documents, they will have text on them that you cannot select. That's just simply an example that was clear and easy to bring to mind because it was released today. And so sometimes you can extract text from it, but we'll see that with this document that they have over here, download this PDF from nostarch.automatestuff and download the files to be used with the books. So over here, so over here, if you go over here, so if you click on this link over here on chapter 13, it'll have a bunch of resources that we'll be using here. If I open it up, there will be a bunch of online materials, and this one is meetingminutes.pdf, which I already have in my classroom folder, or I should already have it. Actually, I probably don't. So let me go and open up my classroom folder. So again, classroom ITP is where I put all the stuff. I don't have it there, so I'll open it up again and drag the various PDF files, over to here and drop them in here because we'll work with these. All right, and notice that we've got, so this is the PDF file that we're going to work with. All right, it's official meeting minutes for Board of Elementary and Secondary Education for our Baton Rouge. And, notice that basically we can select text here. But how many of you have tried to copy and paste something from a PDF file and it just doesn't go great, right? Same kind of thing is going to happen here, okay? This is just because PDFs are great. This is because what PDFs are intended for, which is to distribute something so that it's easy for a human to read. And then computers can kind of come second. What we care about is having something that's easy to read and easy to print out. Modifiability is not what we aim for here, right? If we wanted to be modifiable, we have Word documents for that, but Word documents run the risk of the fact that basically if you open it on one computer versus another computer in a different edition of Word, it might get rendered differently. All right. So we've got all this text here. It's meeting minutes, so we're going to go ahead and follow these instructions. So we're going to go ahead and run through these commands. So Python 3. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and import PDF2. I'm going to say PDF is equal to open. Oh, I'm actually going to exit because guess what? I need to be in the file in that in the directory, right? I need to be in the directory where meeting minutes is. So Python 3. So there we go. Okay. Import PDF2. PDF is equal to open meeting. I'm going to call it PDF file. It's equal to open meeting minutes. I always have trouble spelling minutes for some reason. Minutes and necessary. Those two words for some reason. And then we're going to do it in a read binary format because we're reading a binary file. And then we say we'll have our PDF reader, which I'll just call reader for short, PyPDF, to the module name PDF file reader. And we're saying, hey, PDF, I've opened up this binary file. This binary file here, and I want to pass it to the PDF file reader so that I can actually get read. Oh, PDF not defined. I called it PDF file. Okay? So now I can start asking the reader various pages. For instance, how many pages does it have? And it should report back that it has 19 pages. We can also ask for a page object. Now, an object is basically a variable that has complexity in it, in the sense that it has both fields and functions that we can call. So page object is and we've been working with them. Lists are objects. Strings are objects. They're basically anything more complicated than a number is an object. PDF, and we called it reader for us, is .get page 0, which will get the first page. And now if I go ahead and say page object dot extract text from it, if I try to use that and say, hey, get page extract text, notice that it says official board minutes of the meeting of March 7th, 2014. Right? Notice this official meeting minutes. I'm pretty sure it's not spelled like that in the actual document. Right? It's official, where is it? Official board minutes. So this big part over there is giving us a bit of an issue. So let me go ahead and see, is that accurate? Well, if we go up to here, and if I select this and copy it, and I go into Geany over here and try pasting it, I mean, it comes up with that, which is not this, right? Also, you know, it's on the bottom, and official board minutes appeared on the top over here. Meeting of March 7th, so if it said the official board minutes, meeting of 7th, the board of elementary, okay, so this part is perfectly fine. All right, and this just happens to deal with the fact that text encoded in PDFs is a bit tricky to read. So typically you won't be using this to, if you're using this, you might be using it to read a well-formed PDF file, but most PDF files are not well-formed. You know, they have some kind of elaborate thing going on there. There's a lot of things we're going to use this for, though. But the big things is that over here is that we can get a specific page. The big thing to remember here is that we're using a zero-based index, so page 1 is actually page 0 in this list. So if I ask for page 1 and extract the text there, it actually does a really good job of getting the second page text. Right, it got this all, and it was pretty easy to read. And we could totally like do a dot split over here over dot split on the new line, and it ends up being okay, but there's also just these weird things here because of formatting. Again, messing with the formatting in a PDF file is kind of, or trying to deal with the formatting in a PDF file, it is hit or miss. All right, but the part that's relevant for us over here is encryption. Right? And part of this was because I wanted to talk about encryption and give you guys kind of an idea here, right? I think you mentioned a website we had that basically tells you, did you mention, or was it somebody else? No? Who mentioned about a website?
Oh, password?
Yeah, password.
How long? Yeah, that was me.
Okay, yeah. How long a password it would take, take a password and to crack. Basically, how long, given your password, would it take a computer to crack it? Right, and the answer is that if you're using something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or password as your password, one, you're not actually as smart as you think you are if you're using password as your password. Everybody thinks that's pretty funny. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, like, I'm pretty bad at passwords too, and I will fully just nearly out myself here as to how bad I am. When I'm asked to register for a website I don't really care about, and here's the key where I don't really care about, I have a password string, let's call it thip. Okay, say that's my password. It's not. Okay, but then typically if it's a certain number of letters long, and then typically if I'm like registering for a website that's like I have to do book order forms like the Barnes and Nobles, I might append BN to that. Or if I'm registering for another site that maybe starts with the letters DO, I might put DO to that. Or if I'm registering for a pizza site, I might put pizza, right? Not a very secure password because passwords are hard to remember. But again, if somebody cracked the password, I'm not too worried about that and all the other associated ones. But for the other ones, you need unique passwords that are actually pretty hard to crack. Passwords, I am not good at keeping passwords, and you should probably have a better thing than me, because it's really not hard. So we're going to take a look at encrypted.pdf over here. So if we look at my encrypted.pdf, which I got out of the those resources, I want to open it, and it says, hey, it's locked and it requires a password. And it says, hey, you can, it's encrypted. There's a key that's basically scrambling all the bits, and without it, I don't know how to re-scramble the bits back into something that's readable. So I physically cannot read it. It's not that my computer's just being stupid and not letting me, and being impolite and not letting me, and I'm not just looking at it out of politeness. It's literally got this bit scrambled, and I need the password to unscramble the bits. So we know the password, though, is Rosebud. We just know because that's what it says on the page. Rosebud in all lowercase. And there, all it is this. And so now I can read it. Right? It's unscrambled it, and I can read it. But if I didn't know the password, which is what you're dealing with for you guys, you might be out of luck. Okay. Now we're making some basic assumptions about the password in the homework, which is that the password is like a common thing out of the dictionary, which is very foolish because what we'll see is that should take maybe a couple of seconds to take care of. Yes, there's 30,000 words or something, or 40,000 words, or 400,000 words. I don't know how many are in that dictionary. Point being is that that's not a lot. It sounds like a lot. It's really not. Let's go ahead and, for instance, let me just write a for loop. For I in range 1,000, print I. You know how the most expensive part of that operation was me actually doing the printing, not the actual, not the actual counting it up. So if I were to instead do for I in range 100,000, print I. My computer does that like magnificently fast. It's like kind of absurd how quickly my computer can just spit out numbers like that. Right? 1,000,000, print I. That'll take 10 times as long, right? Goes stands to reason, but it's not taking long at all. We're already in the 400,000s. Not long at all to just count. Modern computers are fast. Really, really, really freakishly fast. Okay? I really need to emphasize just how fast everything is. Okay? When it gets data from the internet, and when data is traveling along a copper wire, such as like over Ethernet, how fast is that? Are those signals physically traveling? Very, very close to the speed of light, an appreciable fraction of the speed of light. It's about 2/3 the speed of light. It is very, very quick. To send a bit of data using a laser, NASA. This is something I've given as networking homework before, which is that basically one of the first things you often do in networking for homework or at least one of the networking courses I've taken, is you have to calculate like, okay, what are the sources of latency of how long things take, given like this is their bit rate, this is how fast data travels. right? So, you know, the delay between like shooting a laser from the moon to the Earth is about a second, right? And that's something we could use to transmit, that NASA's shown we can transmit data using. About a second delay to get basically electronic information from the moon to here. That's wickedly fast. Distance, though, is a huge deal too, right? So when we do actually finally get to Mars, it's going to be a bit nerve-wracking for everybody involved because basically, you know, you might hear they might be communicating with Houston, and then there's a crash and Houston's going to go, is everything okay there? Well, the crash that happened was 18 minutes ago, and it will take about 18 minutes for the "Are you okay?" to get back, and about 18 minutes for the reply to get back, because there's just so much distance to travel. On average, it also depends on whether there's a big ball of fire and magnetic radiation blocking communications at that specific moment. But point being is that computers are pretty fast, and when it comes to just doing stuff on Earth and communicating things, it's pretty fast. I was speaking with somebody in Japan last Saturday, another professor there, and there was pretty much no delay between me speaking and him receiving it. Computers are really, really fast. So if you think your 8-letter password is going to stand a chance against a modern computer, it ain't. It is not going to stand a chance, right? There are 128 characters, right? That we could. Let's go ahead and say there's about 90 characters you could potentially use. I'm just ballparking here. 90 typable characters, right? You've got 26 regular characters plus 56 plus another 26, that's 56, plus 10 for digits, and then plus another 10 so we're up to 76. So let's call it 80 characters that you could potentially use for any single character in a password. Okay? And if you've got 8 of those, that gives us that many combinations, which is a lot to check. That's actually quite a bit to check. Yes? Did what twice? That's raised. So the number of possible combinations you have are 80 times 80 times 80 times 80. Right? That's a lot. But most people don't do that. And also those passwords are hard to remember. So if we just simply limit ourselves to using letters and numbers times 8, yeah, that's also a big number. But most people, if they're using an 8-letter password that's composed of just digits, yeah, that's reasonable, but computers can crack that in, I don't know, so that's millions over here. So how much is this? That's 200 billion passwords to potentially crack. Now, so what we're doing over here is actually something called brute forcing. If basically I'm going to check every single possible combination. But most likely, most passwords don't actually rely on that. We're going to instead rely on the fact that you're going to be using something based off of a word and, maybe switching out a character in a word. Like maybe you're going to say, maybe my password is like something like fake face, okay? And maybe I decide that I'm going to be clever and I'm going to replace the first 4 with A with a 4 and A and this E with a 3, right? Fairly easy to remember. But, hackers know that too. They kind of invented leet speak. So, all right. So that's enough of that aside. Point is that basically, yes, there's a wide space to search, but, you get enough computers chomping on the same password for at once, it will help. Which leads to one of the central points of security. Nothing is uncrackable. It's just a matter of whether you're going to be still alive when the information becomes useful. So the idea here is that if you want to protect yourself, it's not so much making yourself immune to any kind of attack, it's making sure that basically you're just too expensive to attack. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to just pull this up in Geany now so that I can start modifying this. So import pi, so let's go ahead and call this, so I'm going to put this in, so decrypt pdf1.py, okay, pi pdf2, reader. So first I want to just show what happens when we open the file. Open, so don't bother typing, so I'm going to type in this open bit, but I'll be using this later, so don't worry about this part too much. Open encrypted.pdf, right? And then I'm going to do the whole read binary thing, RB. And I just want to show what we mean when we're reading this. So open, so for line in open print line, right? It's just going to print out this binary information. It's pretty unintelligible for me. This is the PDF file and it's scrambled and encrypted, so I cannot read it, right? So let's go ahead. So that's what I just wanted to show what I'm printing out there. So now if I try to do, so I'm going to use our PDF reader. So reader is equal to pi pdf2 dot pdf file reader open. See if I did that call correctly. Yep. So I just basically chained that all together. Right? I combined the two lines into one. So I combined this. I combined this. The whole PDF is equal to open that, and then PDF, then reader on. So I just cut out the middleman there. I did, and moved the open statement into the argument over here, since that was fine. Okay. So now, if I try to do, I can ask reader print reader dot is encrypted. Reader dot is encrypted, and it's going to tell me true. So, and if I try to read it, print reader dot get, so page 0. So if I just try to save it, page is equal to reader.getPage 0. Tells me that the file is not decrypted, so it can't read it. Right, that's that error right over here. PyPDF reader error. Reason it's giving me this error on line 5 is saying that it's a PDF file read error. You can't read the file because it's not decrypted. I mean, I did decrypt it, but it was in a different program, and only that program remembers that it was decrypted. So fortunately, we do have a way to decrypt stuff in Python, which is that we can use the reader.decrypt method. So, and we don't need to get past it. We don't need to save it anyway. We just so simply reader.decrypt. And then we pass in the password, or what we think the password will be. So if I do print page dot, so if I do this now, page dot extract text. Is it extract text? I don't. So it decrypted it, I got the first page, and then I was able to extract it, so I don't get that error anymore. So let's take a look at this decrypt method in a bit more detail, because obviously, since you're being asked to decrypt a file for homework, let's go ahead and see what we can do with it. So let's see what happens when we try printing the decrypt method. It prints out, so I printed out true because it was encrypted. I'll go ahead and remove that. But when I run print.decrypt, it gives me a 1. If on the other hand I try giving it the password hacksaws, okay, it'll tell me 0. If I try giving it foo, it gives me 0. If I try giving it spam and eggs as the password to decrypt it, it gives me 0 as well. So the decrypt method will tell me some information. Specifically, it will tell me, it will give me a 1 back if I manage to decrypt the file. And remember, a 1 in if statement counts as true. And it will give me a 0 back if I wasn't able to decrypt it. So for instance, I can say something like this. If reader.decrypt print we cracked the code, else print your hacker, let's see, your hacker foo is weak. Right? So here, I'm passing it a password that's wrong. So we get a 0 back from decrypt, and it says your hacker foo is weak because I can't decrypt it. However, if I do pass in the correct password, which I know because he's listed it, is Rosebud, we'll get back, hey, we cracked the code, and now we can actually use this statement over here and not crash. The other hand, if we try to decrypt it and we can't, we try to decrypt, so that was successful. However, if we can't decrypt it, then if we try to run this, it will give us an error. Okay. So, and one more thing. Another way to check though is that if we print reader.isEncrypted after we decrypt it, it will say, encrypted, not encrypted. It will say, it's not a method, it's a Boolean it's a Boolean variable. It will say true. Because it's saying that actually, not that the file is not encrypted, not that we didn't crack it, but that it's an encrypted file. Just because we opened it up doesn't stop it from being an encrypted file. And it will only remain decrypted for the extent that it's in memory. Once we close the program, it is, it only decrypts that object, not the actual thing on your disk. So we can use the encrypted, that fairly straightforward. So that's how you can decrypt a password. Now we learned about that there was the PDF file writer. And there's other things we can do with this, with the PDF, PyPDF package. We can copy pages, we can rotate pages, we can merge pages. We can also encrypt it by using the PDF writer.encrypt. So if we want to write a PDF, we can add a password onto it. And that will allow us to do that. But that's outside the scope. All you really need to know is the encrypt method, because the decrypt method, because it's fun to decrypt things. So that's pretty much all you need to know for your homework for this. And if you're interested in learning more about the PDFs, that's great. But I want to move back to the other topic now, the web reading and the web scraping. Okay. Because most of the information you will be dealing with lives on the internet these days. So let's talk about some of the modules that exist. So this is one that you're not going to have. So this is a So this is a Python module you will not have to download. It's automatically included. Import web browser. Okay, and what this does is that it works with your web browser. It's fairly cool, and it seems kind of useless. Web browser dot open let's see, https:// www dot let's see npr.org. Web browser is not defined. What? Web browser. And I run it, and it opened up npr.org. If I give it a different page, like say I do text.npr.org, it'll open up the text-only NPR webpage, which is pretty cool. So web browser is useful for interacting with your web browser. Now, it opened up Firefox on my system because that is my default web browser. If you're using Chrome or Edge, then that's perfectly fine, and it will just use that one. It just hooks into your default one. And that seems kind of useless, but there is an application for that. So it does make some very interesting things possible. So for one thing, it says the example he gives is that it's tedious to copy a street address to the clipboard and bring up a map of it on Google Maps. And so you can, if that's something you do very commonly, you can write a script that will launch the map from just reading your clipboard. You don't even have to paste. What it does is that it will get the street address from either the command line arguments or your clipboard. And we haven't really talked about command line arguments, but those are kind of important things. And then you can open the web browser to Google Map pages for your address. So the first thing we need to do is figure out, though, given a URL, we're going to want to open up a web page. And this is just pretty interesting. Like, hey, just figuring out how web pages work. Oh, if I type in 870 Valencia Street, San Francisco, blah, 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 if I open it up, I'll get this address over here from Google Maps. But there's a lot of extra data there that you don't just need, right? But actually, if you just try going to this, maps/place 870 Valencia Street, with all that extra information, San Francisco, California, you'll find that actually it just works just fine for pulling up that information. So you can just simply create a string like that. Now the main thing is I want to teach you about here are the command line arguments, which is the sys.argv over here. So command line arguments, they get used a lot more in scripting languages like Python and in scripting languages like Python and in older languages like C. You're not going to use them so much in Java where you do a lot of work in your IDE if you take 1068, but they're still worthwhile to know how to use. So let me go ahead and write a quick Python file to demonstrate how those work. So I'm going to call this command. I'm going to call this comarg.py for command line arguments. And what we're going to do is we're going to import a library called sys, which is short for system, which helps you interact with your computer system. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just print out some, and this one's going to be very, very simple. Print out sys.argv. Very simple. That's all the program's going to do. Now, if I run this over here, it's just going to say comarg.py, which is the name of the program. So I'm going to actually run it from the command line over here. I'm going to cd I'm going to go and change to the directory. I'm going to go to classroom. So if you've been working in in some kind of IDE like idle, you really don't use command line arguments too often. But it's important to understand how they work. cd itp, which is where it lives. And now if I call Python 3 comarg, right, prints out the name of the program. Okay, that's very boring. Well, if I actually put some other stuff, hi, my name is George. Wait, no, it's not. Let's see. I think I broke it. No. Wait, no. Let's just go with, hi, my name is George. Wait, no. We get, it prints out comarg.py. Hi, my name is George. Wait, no. Because I accidentally had an I on the end. Wait, no. Okay. So what it's doing over here is that it's a very simple program. It just simply prints out what are called the system.argv, or the command line arguments. And argv is just simply an old name for command line arguments. Like, it's the name that you would use in, I think it's for argument vector. It's very old, from C. So, but what it does is that prints out the command line arguments, which are pretty useful, right? Command line arguments are for those little programs that you would use in your command line. Like here is the ls command, which is very simple. The equivalent is dir if you're using a Windows machine. If you're using a Mac, it's ls. And it's very simple. When you run it without any command line arguments, it just simply prints out the list of all the files and folders in your current directory. If, however, I say ls.l, it will make a bigger list of them, where I get actually, and that command line argument specified, hey, I would like these to be printed out like a list. If I wanted it to be human readable sizes, -l.-h, and now those byte sizes are now actually, instead of in bytes, it gives me, oh, this is 506 kilobytes instead of, 517,000 bytes. So these command line arguments are pretty powerful. They're pretty useful, and you can do a lot on. And you can do a lot if you happen to know how to use them. Let's see, man. Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to bother with this right now. So if we wanted to make our own utility to be used in Python, that could be used in the command line, we'd really like something that could be used with say, the command line. So let's take take a look at in more detail about the way about what the argv vector does for us. So if I do Python 3, the first thing I provide is the name of the file, and then I provide, let's say I provide x, y, and z. The resulting list I get is command.arg.py, which notices the thing over here, and then x, y, and z, which are the other things I go over here. And x, y, and z, separated by spaces, each give me are each counted as their own argument. Okay? So the argv vector holds in index 0 the name of the program, and then index 1 it holds the first argument, index 2 it holds the second argument, index 3 it holds the third argument. So we can do something like this. And this, if we get into more detail, it looks a bit closer to this, how it might get used. If, say, sys.argv if length of the system.argument vector is equal to 0, print please enter an argument, else print, let's see, elif sys.arg v1 is equal to -x, print extracting, hold on a second, extracting data, right? Just making up something over there. Else, let's see, and I'm going to do elif sys.arg v1 equals -r, print removing data. Just making stuff up again here. It's not going to do anything but print, right? Else print invalid argument valid args -x or -r. Right, fairly straightforward over there. And so now if I run this from the command line like I've been doing over here, right, if you try running this from idle, you're just going to get, sorry, if it's equal to 1 over here, then you're just going to get it's equal to 1. It says please enter an argument, right? Because, hey, if you are just running it from here, the only argument it has is the name of the Python file that you're running. So we need to run it from the command prompt if we want to start using it. So python3.comarg comarg.py foo, it will say it read in comarg.py and foo, and it says invalid argument. Valid args are x or -r. It's just printing out, it's like it's printing out a real bona fide error. So if I say comarg.x, it will say extracting data, and it looks all official like it's doing something when it's in the command line, right? -w -r removing data. Right, and it looks all, and like I said, it looks like it's a real thing now that it's working command line like that. Looks more authentic. But all this is doing is just basically saying, hey, given what the argument is, I'd like to read it. So let's go ahead and start making our mapit program now that we know how to use it. Mapit.py I'm going to create, and we're going to import two things. Web browser, and then sys. The first thing we want to do is that if they enter in an address into, if they enter an address on the command line, we want to open it in the web browser. That's fairly straightforward. So let me go ahead and grab Temple University address. Let me get the Temple University address because, you know, might as well use that as opposed to doxing myself, right? It's not you I'm particularly worried about. It's, you know, all those crazy internet trolls. So let's see. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to put this here in the comments so that I have it easy to access. So what we do is that basically, so first let's review what the Google URL is. It is Google, if we want to use Google Maps, we want to use the following URL. Base URL, is equal to https://google.com, www.google.com/maps/place. Okay? And basically we can say over here, if sys.argv is equal to it, or rather if the length of system.argv is greater than 1, that means that somebody bothered entering command line arguments, right? So we'll say that basically target is equal to, target is equal to base, let's see, it would be base URL plus, and then, well, actually, that makes it a bit tough. You might want to slow down here for a second. So I'm going to comment this out and come right back to here. Because technically, let me go ahead and just print out sys.argv, because I need to be more explicit as to what I want. Right? So if I run python 3 mapit.py, did I save it in the right place? No, I did not. Save as classroom, ITP, save here. So if I want to run this, right, if we check up here, and it may be hard for you to see, but all the parts of an address in a URL have periods between them. So that means we want to join that address together. So if I print, so for instance, if I say I want this address, copy python 3 mapit.py this, then I'll get mapit, then the first part, then I'll get the street name, and then the various parts of it together. But what I need to do is I need to combine them all, and the way it handles spaces, that it wants to see spaces as plus. So first thing, let's slice off just the first argument so that I don't have the command name in there anymore. Oh, can't run it from here because otherwise I can't see anything. So I get the address, but each part of the address is in the list. So now let's go ahead and use the join command. Plus join. So we're going to join all the strings in here using a plus sign. So it's a plus dot join. Oh, and again, can't run it over there. And so I now get this 1800. So all I have to do is now add this to the base URL. So I say target is equal to this. Okay. So now I just have to say target is equal to that, and then do web browser dot open target. Okay, and so now if I run this, exit. Actually, let's see. Do I have option? Just give me 1 second. Edit preferences. Terminal. Is there a terminal down here? Awesome. So I'll just run the terminal down there, and let me just go ahead and say preferences so that you guys can see it. Terminal, let the size be closer to 24, and we're going to use the same font, Fira Sans. We'll use Fira Mono though. Select. Okay. So let's go ahead and do cd into the directory. Cd classroom ITP. That's my folder. Python 3 mapit.py. And now if I put in, whoops, that's why I have this copied over here, so now I can copy this into my terminal pretty easily. So now, if I run this, give an address, and it automatically just opens it up and searches for that address in Google. It's actually pretty convenient. But what if I don't want to go through this whole process? Let's see. Let's see. First off, can I just make this an executable? It's been a while since I had to do this. Which Python 3? Use it up into Python 3. So crunchbang /bin / you don't have to put this in, but this should make it explicitly a Python file. This tells the bash shell, which is what I'm using, what I want to use this program with. Then I have to do chmod +x. So first off, this is telling me that telling the computer that I can in fact run that program as just a program without having to need any it's an executable file is what I was saying, and you can run it as an executable file. And now if I do /that plus my address, I don't even need to call Python anymore. It will call Python automatically for me. That's pretty nice. That particular thing will not work on Windows because this is a specific, that's a specific path that's in Unix. So that'll work on a Mac if you also give it the program an executable permission, but you can just stick to using Python 3 and map.py. So with our remaining 20 minutes, the other part of the program was, and this was easy to kind of pass over, which is Friday evening. The idea here is that if we don't have a command line argument, it's going to look at the clipboard and get the address from there. So let's see, so let's go ahead and just check Python 3 import piper clip. No module named piperclip, so that's something I might need to install. So piperclip is actually this nice cool module that we can use over here. So I'm going to install another module, pip3 install piperclip, which you can probably figure out from the context of what I've been talking about and the name, that this is a Python library that allows you to interact with your computer's clipboard. Which seems pretty useful, right? But it's kind of the same thing where basically Google can sometimes autocomplete from the text message that's sent to you if you're using two-factor authentication. And it's very simple. You don't really need too much from it. So let's just take a look at the way piperclip will work. It's fairly straightforward. Python 3 import piperclip. Okay. I'm going to copy the following string A, B, C, D, E, F, G into my clipboard. And if I say piperclip dot paste, it will return the string that's currently stored in my return the string that's stored in my clipboard, right? What I just controlled C'd. If I let's see, does it have a copy as well? Copy foo. So you can interact with your clipboard now, and I can say, hey, you just copied foo. If I paste, it will say foo, and if I try pasting out here, it's foo. In case you're wondering how some programs just simply say, hey, the contents have already been automatically uploaded to your clipboard, it's because somebody wrote a small utility to do that for you. It's pretty cool. So here's the trick now. If we don't have a command line argument, so else, what we're going to do is we're going to say target is equal to base URL plus, let's see, what we need to do. Well, let's just go ahead and try base URL plus paperclip.paste. So let's copy this. And now I'm just going to go ahead and run it. Paperclip is not defined. Forgot to import it. Paperclip. Let's go ahead and close those map files and make sure that actually something comes up. So let me run the program again. If we go to my, oh, yeah, it's not going to do anything because I just set the target. I didn't tell it web browser dot open target, right? Computer will only do what you tell it to do. And when you look at that, it just took the password I had from the, just took the address I had from my clipboard and immediately pasted it into there, which is pretty useful. Meaning I don't have to go through the physical steps of, copying, open up Google, pasting it. I can just run the utility. But, you can kind of see just basically that there's multiple possibilities for this. This is just one kind of very silly thing you can do with interacting with the web and just using your web browser. And it looks like most people are just done for today if I'm just noticing the small steady trickle of people are leaving, which is perfectly fine because this is a perfectly good stopping point. All right, so next week we're going to finish up working with this stuff, and I'll introduce a bit of Excel, but on Thursday we'll do final review. It is very, 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 very important that you guys demo your assignments before, not next Monday, but the Monday that's technically the last day of classes.